Framing out the boat here. When I tore it apart, it already had this S piece of aluminum, this is called. This is what they had the original plywood sitting on. So what I'm gonna do for my framing system is I'm gonna take out all these old rivets that they had. These little hangers were holding the wires. I'm gonna bang these out just with a chisel and a hammer, and then we're gonna take this piece of aluminum I got. This is just 1/8 inch, 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch. We're just gonna take this, we're gonna mount this right onto this S channel, and then I have more aluminum angle I just bought. We're gonna make little notches on that, and we're gonna run kind of rib supports on each one of these pieces here. We're just gonna go from the center out to the edges, rivet it down, and hopefully that's strong enough to where we can mount down our aluminum sheets and have a nice sturdy deck. All right guys, so I just got an old chisel here, framing hammer. I'm just gonna take all these rivets here. If you just carefully get the chisel down underneath here, just bang it out. You'll see the hanger came right out. There's a nice clean hole, no rivet left over. There might be a little bit left. Just pull it out, comes out nice, clean, easy. I'll show you guys a time lapse there, what that's gonna look like with all these, and then I'll check back in with you before we rivet the new piece of aluminum on. All right guys, now I'm going to show you what we're going to do to frame the boat. So I bought a bunch of, this is 1/8 inch thick, 1.5" by 1.5" angle aluminum. It's 60/61. So what we're going to do is take a measurement the whole way across the back of the boat here. You want to work from the back up because your boat's square in the back. It tapers with the hole up front. So I can tape measure long enough. All right, so we've got roughly 51.5 inches. So that's going to make 25 3/4 our 1/2 inch mark, which is going to be where we make our chop saw cut. So we'll come here, grab our Sharpie, just to make a little mark here with 25 3/4 inches. And then what we're gonna do, once we make this cut, take the bandsaw, and we're gonna have to make little square notches on this side and both on this side, and then it'll get riveted into the rib of the boat here and the lip of the middle seam here. Hopefully, because we did that center cut, it'll pull the center seam straight again, and you'll have a nice, even rib system working the whole way up to the front of your boat. All right guys, so we're at the chop saw here. Any chop saw works, just basic generic. This is a woodworking chop saw. All I did, buy a metal blade, word blade. You're gonna destroy it in like 2 seconds trying to make these cuts. I bought a Diablo. This is like a 100-tooth aluminum saw. I understand these are expensive. This one was about 80 bucks. You don't have to get the actual saw blades. You can get, you don't sit over there, I tried it. You can just get a galvanized blade. It'll cut through it. It takes a little bit, and with the amount of aluminum I've been cutting, I figured that the time I save is worth the money. So we're gonna make this cut. All right guys, so this is the last checked in. I've installed 3 of the new ribs that I'm gonna be using as the support system. I've just been using 3/16 inch pop rivets. We've got 1 on each end here. And then for the cuts, we've just been taking a square cut notch out of here. It's as wide as the channel is here. So this side is 1 1/4 inch. So you just cut a 1 1/4 inch square out of the angle, mount it in there at the rivet. And then down here, I've been cutting it my best, just eyeballing it, but I've been doing my best to cut it to the angle of the rib there, and then I just pop a rivet in down here. And as you can see, it's pretty sturdy. It'll only get better as more and more ribs get in, but as of right now, I can stand on it, nothing happens. So let's see how it turns out. All right, so now you have your cut piece of aluminum. It's gonna bridge the gap here. You gotta find out your measurements. So what we're gonna do for these measurements is for the square cut, just measure the gap from whatever your other piece is, or if it's a fresh start, just whatever the edge is if you do a similar framing system. So for me, this is a 3/4 inch piece of aluminum over here. We got a little bit of an overhang here because that cut wasn't as nice. So the difference there roughly, looks like about 9/16, somewhere in there. No, excuse me, about 11/16. So I'm gonna get as close to that as I can. That's obviously a pretty precise measurement. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is your framing system, you're not gonna see it. Just get it as close as you can. And then for these angle cuts, what I've been doing is taking a square notch out about 1 inch. So for example, back here, so you'd make about 1 inch mark down here. You cut that square out, and then we're coming about 6 inches down. About 6 1/4. Make a mark here, and then from that 1 inch cut, that inside edge down to that, you're gonna draw an angle, and that's about the angle that I've had on these ribs. Just make sure you make the measurements and the cuts on the right side. So I currently have the back face of this aluminum towards the back end of the boat. So what we're gonna do here, like I said, that first square cut is gonna be about 11/16. So we're gonna get as close to that as we can, because this is only 1/8 inch. We'll do that. And then that's just gonna be a straight square cut down. I'll show you what that looks like on the bandsaw. And then so for this side, because this is the side that's gonna go on that angle, it's gonna have that weird angle cut I was talking about. I'm gonna roughly mark 1 inch. Mark about 1 inch off. Make sure we got that on there right. Yeah, just cut the inside edge. Got 1 inch off, and then like I said, we're coming about 6 1/4 inches down. And then after we make this cut, I'll show you, we're gonna draw a line from that dot to where that cut's made, and that's gonna be the angle of the rib. Now you got that square edge cut. An important part to note is that there's going to be a little lip here because you can get as close as you can, but it's not going to be a perfect cut on the bandsaw, and this lip needs to be flat because it's sitting on that middle bar. So you can try. I've been trying to use a sander. Hasn't worked out the best for me. Best luck I've had, just come over to a vise. If you don't have one, just find something that can hold it down for you. Grab yourself a file. It doesn't take as long as you might think. Just make sure that edge is nice and smooth, and then when that's done, I'll come back and show you guys the angle cut. Now that we have this edge done, I've got it cut out, sanded. This edge is ready to be rooted in. Now we got to do that angle cut I was talking about. So I've got my mark at 1 inch, and then I just put a mark there for my own mental sake at 6 1/4. Anyway, first step's going to be to cut out this square inch, and then when that's done, we'll draw a line from the 6 1/4 mark to where that 1 inch mark meets, and that should be about the angle of my boat. It's close, it's not perfect, but it works. And then I'll clean that up and show you guys what that looks like when we're ready to install it. Alright guys, now that we made that square cut, we can draw our angle. So what you're going to do, grab a speed square and a pencil, line it up relatively, to get as close as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, like I said. Just the more aluminum you keep in there, the more structurally intact your aluminum will stay. Just do that, trace yourself just a rough idea of a line for when you're cutting. I'll make this cut, I'll clean it up, and I'll show you guys what that looks like on the install. Alright, so that rough cut's done. Not the prettiest in the world, but it is there. It'll work. I just hit it with a sander real quick, try to clean up the edge, and I'll go show you guys how we install these now.
What's going on, guys? So I went back through my footage with the rest of the framing, and I don't know what happened. As the SD card, I guess, got corrupted. I don't know, but the footage isn't there. It's just not working the way I wanted it to. I mean, there's bits and pieces, but it's not anything worth posting. Not anything that's going to help you guys out if you're trying to do this yourself. So what we're going to do instead is I've got a few pictures that I think will give you a better idea of what I did. So I'm just going to explain what I did in each picture. So this first picture, you saw it before in the last video, but so there's 6 of the framing ribs there that I made out of the angle. So that's about half of what I actually ended up doing. So you see that middle piece that's already fastened in there. It's got the 2 holes in it all the way up by the bow. I just continued that framing all the way up to the front there. And then that's what the main deck is now sitting on. And then this next picture, it's a view from the back deck. You can see the only thing I built back here was the little. You can see the real shiny pieces of aluminum. It's just that little center box there. Before they had used wood and a lot of other stuff, and I wanted to lighten the boat up, so I used aluminum. I'll show a tour later of what the layout there is going to be, because the boat's actually, it's not done, but it was in the water. The decks are in and everything, so it's getting really close to perfection, but right now it's functional, so I used it last night with Parker. This next picture is the front deck, because I had mentioned in the first video that somehow I was going to raise that deck because there was 2 different levels. So I actually had to make, that's a frame, that's just pressure treated 2x4. It's a lot lighter than I thought it would be, thankfully. But yeah, that's pressure treated 2x4s. I built them into a triangle. I had to rip them down lengthwise just to get the right height there. And then there's 2 pieces of aluminum angle going across just to support the deck. And as of yesterday when I had it out, there's no soft spots. It all holds up real well. And then this final picture, I filled the dead space because originally the casting deck ended where that 2x4 triangle is. Yeah, that 2x4 triangle. Where that ended there, it was just that gap. So I wanted to bring the casting deck back. So what we did was I built, you can see it close, it's running off, that's the live well down there, and then the center console. There's like a aluminum box that I had built, and then that was just out of angle, and actually U-bar, U-aluminum channel bar, whatever you want to call it. I had 2 of those on the ends, and then I just ran angle across, and I built like a frame like that. And then you can see there's the 4 pieces of angle that run from that box up to the 2x4. And last night, I mean, it was sturdy enough with 1/2-inch plywood. There was no soft spots, there was no anything. I actually ended up, a lot of things changed. I mean, I was supposed to use sheet aluminum, and we ended up using plywood for the whole boat just because everything going on, it was impossible to get aluminum at a decent price. And now I bought hatch lids. Originally I was going to cut them out of the wood, but I actually just bought hatch lids and installed all of those. Those really helped a lot with the structure. But yeah, that's where the boat sits as of right now. The next video is going to be me sanding it and painting it, showing you guys that process. It's still not completely painted. The transom isn't even completely sanded right now, so kind of all over the place, but the boat works. That's what matters. So yeah, stay tuned. That video will be rolling out probably in the next 2 weeks or so. So stay tuned for that. And then the video after that, I'll put it in the water and I'll do a walkthrough of everything that we did. Show you guys all the little knickknacks and everything. And that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.